Because I'm gonna tell you why 50 is literally is a diabolical genius, and he's
to pull out
and telling people who the sponsors are. So if they want to harass Cadillac and AT&T, that'll.
It started with a meme, but this wasn't just another petty 50 Cent jab. It was a warning shot. A scorched earth opening salvo in what's become one of the messiest, most personal feuds in recent hip-hop memory. 50 Cent, the troll laureate of rap beef, went all in on Lil Meech, torching the young actor's name across every corner of the internet, and it wasn't subtle. He dropped body cam footage, Instagram captions laced with sarcasm, even a video of Meek slumped in a wheelchair soundtrack to Amy Winehouse's Rehab. The caption? "Damn, this is bad, you believe me now?" It didn't stop there. 50 accused him of being high on set, vomiting during a weapons test, keeping inhalants in his car, and dragging down the reputation of BMF with what he painted as a cocktail of privilege, addiction, and incompetence.
I hate when personal things become public, because everyone speculates on things that they don't really know.
And that's just the surface. The deeper cut, the one drawing blood, was 50's claim that Lil Meech wasn't just self-destructing, he was turning on his own. According to a former associate, Lil Meech allegedly tossed some serious contraband onto a sleeping friend's lap during a police stop. As in, "Here, you hold this while I try not to get booked." The fallout from that accusation alone could fold careers. But of course, 50 didn't just let it ride. He posted it himself, reshared the expose, amplified the humiliation. "Yo, how you gonna throw your strap and your stash on your man's lap while he sleep?" he wrote, practically cackling. "Like here, this your mess. LOL." And then came the name calling. Not even clever, just cold. Mimi became 50's go-to insult. He mocked his schooling, sneered at his background, told his followers the kid never really lived the life he's pretending to portray on TV. "He from private school, never been in the street," 50 posted. "Mimi gotta stop using the substances, it's too dangerous out here." The actor, who once looked like the crown prince of the BMF legacy, now stood half-dressed in scandal, wearing a target on his back. And 50? He kept pressing.
You and 50, y'all had a back and forth on social media about Big Meech, and you ended up apologizing to 50. If you can you give me the backstory behind that? What's going on with Big Meech?
Yo, bruh, I don't want to be like everybody on the internet and come to any kind of assumptions about this. So I went and I read the paperwork.
The bigger question looming over every post, every caption, is why? Why is 50 Cent, a man who helped launch Lil Meech's acting career and spent years building the BMF series into a cultural cornerstone, suddenly flipping the switch? Well, it might all trace back to the man who started it all. Big Meech, the real one, Demetrius Flannery Sr., the former kingpin, the myth, the machine behind the original Black Mafia family empire. He's freshly out of prison and reportedly furious, not at his son, but at 50 Cent. Insiders close to the situation say Big Meech didn't take kindly to being blindsided. After 2 decades behind bars, he stepped out to find that his name, his legacy, was now the centerpiece of online beef and viral trolling. According to Akon, who's been tight with BMF for years, Meech felt slighted by the way 50 handled things. He expected a conversation, not a PR ambush. And the final insult? Rick Ross. The moment Big Meech tapped Ross to perform at his Welcome Home event, 50 lost it. Because Ross isn't just another artist, he's 50's nemesis. Their beef runs deeper than bars and beats. And now, Big Meech seemed to be picking a side.
They never even did that with Meech when you think about it. It was Kingpin, you're right.
They're not gonna say organized crime.
What did you see?
The whispers are growing louder. People in industry circles say Big Meech is aligning with Ross, not just out of spite, but out of strategy. Some even believe the Flannery camp is planning to launch its own projects, separate from 50's empire. Maybe a rival series, maybe a doc, maybe something that chips away at everything 50 built, with stars. Think about the irony. The man who made the BMF brand mainstream could be the very reason it fractures from within. All because loyalty, once broken, doesn't get patched up. It festers. And that brings us to Lil Meech, caught square in the middle. He's not just fighting internet rumors, he's fighting for survival, professionally at least. The rumblings of a Hollywood blacklist are impossible to ignore. A casting director in LA reportedly pulled out of a project over behavioral concerns. An unnamed executive is said to have received a quiet warning about reliability. Nobody's naming names, but we don't have to guess too hard where those messages might have come from. 50 Cent has always been more than a rapper. He's a power broker, a producer, a studio darling when he wants to be. And if he decides someone's done, they might be done.
You take a man that's actively respecting the role of a gangster, that's a different individual. You understand what I'm saying?
Well,
I believe Meech was a hustler.
So, is Lil Meek being sabotaged behind the scenes, one subtle nudge at a time? Or is he genuinely spiraling, unable to meet the expectations set by a father whose reputation was built on dominance and fear? That staircase photo of Meek and Big Meech, caption, "Hear no evil, speak no evil," might have been defiance, but it also felt like a plea, a coded message. Salt only eliminates snails, not made men. But what about legacy? Can it be poisoned too? We have to ask, is 50 Cent trying to erase the Flannery name from the narrative he helped tell? If Lil Meek becomes uncastable, if Big Meech loses public favor, who's left to carry BMF forward? Is this beef really about rehab stints and bad behavior, or is it about power? And who gets to hold the pen when history gets written?
well, no, but he's been saying it.
Saying what?
He's been calling 50 a rat. He was showing 50 hugged up with like Tekashi 6ix9ine, and there's a whole series of Instagram
But see,
posts.
all of this, right, just shows both y'all was on some
There's even talk that 50's once prized actor is now a liability, that he's more tabloid than talent. Some crew members allegedly noticed the shift on set months ago. Late arrivals, missed cues, private phone calls turning into public meltdowns. And while Lil Meek brushed off rehab talk with a flippant, "Where I'm from, everybody needs rehab," the damage might already be done. Because the industry doesn't just care where you're from, it cares where your name lands on the call sheet and who's willing to answer when it rings. As for 50, he's not letting up. After Michael Rainey Jr., one of the rising stars in 50's power universe, called Lil Meek a grown man who needs to own his mess, 50 co-signed the sentiment. He's openly picking favorites now, and Meek isn't one of them. Behind every meme, there's a strategy. Behind every troll post, a message. Don't cross me. Don't embarrass me. Don't forget who gave you your shot.
The thing about with 50 and me, when I took up for Meech, it was because I've been around Meech. You understand? I've had conversations with Meech. And I always known Meech as being a stand-up guy.
And yet, this isn't just a feud, it's starting to feel like a slow-motion mutiny. One camp rising while the other crumbles. A dynasty that once looked bulletproof, now splintering under pressure. If Big Meech decides to go scorched earth, if the Ross Alliance grows legs, if the behind-the-scenes whispers grow into blacklist realities, then we might be witnessing something far bigger than a personal spat. We might be seeing the first cracks in a franchise, the unraveling of a narrative once controlled by a single, relentless voice. But it's not over, not by a long shot. Now we're watching something much darker unfold, because this isn't just a grudge match over clout, it's a full-blown psychological tug-of-war, and the battleground is Lil Meek's entire identity. On one side, we've got 50 Cent, who's made it crystal clear that he sees himself as the architect of Meek Jr.'s fame. Let's not forget, 50 handpicked him to star in BMF, coached him through scenes, leveraged his own platform to put a spotlight on a newcomer with a legendary name but no formal training. At first, he played the mentor, but when the performance started slipping and the headlines got messy, 50's support turned venomous. He didn't just pull away, he weaponized the story.
You might have to have a whole nother hour to this, bruh, because it's longer than what people realize it is. And I'm gonna try to do it as short as possible.
And on the other side, Big Meech, a man whose name still sends chills down certain corridors in Atlanta and Detroit. He's out now, watching from the sidelines, maybe trying to rewrite history, but reportedly doing so with an approach that some insiders describe as enabling. We've heard the whispers that he's been encouraging his son's lavish spending, brushing off concerns about partying, and treating the old street lessons like war stories instead of red flags. According to 50 himself, when he told Meek Jr. to cool it with the substances, Big Meek allegedly shrugged it off, bragging about the wild days of his own past like it was a rite of passage. He used to do X like it's cool, 50 said, one man trying to discipline the brand, the other preserving the legend, and the son stuck trying to impress them both while cracking under the weight. What's wild is how predictable this all feels, because this is exactly how 50 Cent plays the long game. We've seen it before. Ja Rule, Young Buck, The Game, Vivica, Rick Ross, Wendy Williams. There's a pattern here. 50 builds you up, gets close, finds your weak spots, then turns the camera around and records your downfall in real time. He doesn't just cut people off, he turns them into punchlines. He doesn't just expose flaws, he broadcasts them in carousel posts with vintage soundtracks. And now it's Meek Jr. in the crosshairs, getting slow roasted online for every missed cue, every wild night, every awkward soundbite.
You mentioned Meech. Have you spoke to Meech at all?
I had a text message conversation back and forth with him because he's in the halfway house.
What do you think his next move should be?
I got a lot of things he can do, man. He might want to make a movie. He might want to do some different things where, because I understand how important real is to our culture, right? But when you develop in television.
Let's not forget that 50 practically dared Floyd Mayweather and Rick Ross to come clean up the mess. Help, he wrote, tagging them directly. You used him, and now you're not going to be there for him? That's not trolling, that's bait. He wants the whole industry to pick sides, and some already are. Michael Rainey Jr., who's been in 50's power universe for years, didn't even flinch, called Meek a grown man who should own his mess. No loyalty to the BMF name, just brutal detachment. Rainey even said, why the would I feel bad for another grown man? The message couldn't be clearer. This is survival of the most useful. And 50 only keeps the ones who deliver. Behind the curtain, it's starting to get tense. People in casting rooms and producers' meetings are whispering that working with Lil Meech now comes with risk. He's talented, sure, but unpredictable. Rumors about missed shoots and erratic behavior are circling. Some say it's just stress, others hint it's deeper than that. Either way, the phone's not ringing the same. Not like it did 2 years ago when BMF dropped and Meek Jr. was the next big thing. These days, he's busy launching a fashion store in Miami, talking about retail therapy while 50's Instagram feed turns into a non-stop roast. It doesn't take a Hollywood veteran to figure out what happens next when an actor's tabloid presence starts overshadowing their screen time.
I ain't never had a conversation with I don't know these. I know your name, I seen your video. Other than that, we ain't got no business together. We ain't got no reason to even be talking.
What makes this even messier is how blurred the lines have become between family, business, and ego. Because let's be real, Big Meech and 50 Cent weren't just collaborators. They were trying to mythologize a brand, turn a criminal empire into prestige TV, give street lore the red carpet treatment. But now, that myth is cracking. And every Instagram story, every caption war, every leaked video adds another fracture. If Meek Jr. gets frozen out of the entertainment industry, what happens to the Flannery legacy on screen? Does 50 recast the role, remove him off, or worse, replace the character entirely and spin it as creative direction? Meanwhile, there's chatter that Big Meech is building alliances of his own. Industry sources claim he's taking meetings not just with Ross, but with other players who've clashed with 50 in the past. There's talk of an alternative BMF docuseries, a different lens, a counter-narrative, and maybe even a rival streaming deal. That's speculation for now, but in this arena, rumors move fast. And if Big Meech decides to go nuclear, we could be looking at one of the biggest power plays since Suge Knight stormed the Source Awards.
To create energy or like a excitement for the actual release of a record.
There's also the question of street loyalty. While 50 may dominate in boardrooms and timelines, Big Meech still commands a level of respect that isn't earned with likes. If this war escalates beyond Instagram into the back channels of hip-hop culture, things could get volatile. Suddenly, it's not just a family feud, it's a territory issue. And in that case, who really controls the narrative? The mogul with a camera? Or the legend with a story? We can't ignore how fractured the public perception of Lil Meech has become. To some, he's a victim, caught between two larger-than-life father figures, each pulling him in opposite directions for their own benefit. To others, he's a liability, a man with a golden opportunity who's letting it slip through his fingers. And to a growing group of viewers, he's just content, a spectacle, a meme. That alone is terrifying, because when your real life starts looking like a parody of the show you star in, how do you take back control?
And I understand that it may be more attention than you usually get, but it'll be the kind of attention that when it goes away, you go away completely. Like
There's also a deeper psychological twist playing out beneath the memes and sound bites, one that cuts straight to Lil Meech's core. The whispers about his private school upbringing have become more than just a clapback. They've turned into a full-fledged identity assault. According to several insiders, 50 Cent has been quietly feeding this narrative for months, subtly framing Meech Jr. as a suburban tourist in his own father's mythology. The idea? That he's not a product of the streets, but a protected performer playing dress-up in his dad's legacy. And in this world, authenticity isn't optional. It's currency. This narrative is dangerous because it doesn't just target his career, it targets his lineage. To some observers, 50's strategy seems clear. Undermine Lil Meech's street cred and the BMF brand becomes vulnerable. It's one thing to question his reliability as an actor, it's another to plant the idea that the heir to the BMF throne never really lived the life he claims to represent. If that idea sticks, if the streets stop believing in him, then what's left of the legacy? The series loses its bite, the myth starts to fade, and 50 walks away with the crown, leaving a defanged empire in his wake.
There's nobody in control of me. Like, I do what I want to do. So, I'm deciding to your life.
And for Lil Meech, the pressure must be surreal. On set, he's portraying his father, a man whose name is still synonymous with street power and loyalty. Offset, he's being painted as a kid raised behind gates and guided by tutors. The collision of those two identities isn't just confusing, it's brutal. Audiences are no longer sure what's real. Critics are beginning to ask whether his performance is powerful or just performative. And behind the scenes, casting agents may already be second-guessing roles that require grit and edge. When credibility becomes a liability, even success starts to look like fraud. There's growing speculation that this could be 50's most calculated dismantling yet, not by attacking Meech's actions, but by stripping away the myth that made him marketable. If fans and execs alike start to believe he's a manufactured product rather than a living extension of BMF history, then 50 doesn't need to fire him, he just needs to let the illusion unravel. And that's the cruelest twist of all. Meech Jr. may be doing everything right and still lose control of his own story.
Rick, bro, I'ma your life for fun. There's a few times. This is not new.
This feud isn't just about reputation anymore. It's about ownership. Ownership of a legacy, of a brand, of a son. And as the lines continue to blur between loyalty and leverage, we're left wondering who actually cares about Lil Meech as a person and who just sees him as a pawn. So now we're left staring down the barrel of something that feels bigger than entertainment. If 50 Cent succeeds in blacklisting Lil Meech and spinning the public against the Flunnery name, what happens to the BMF series? What happens to the story Big Meech spent decades building, on the streets, in prison, and now on screen? Can it survive without the bloodline? Or are we witnessing the slow erosion of one of hip-hop's most mythologized dynasties? In this war of egos, power, and revenge, only one side can come out on top. Who will it be? And what will be left of the BMF legacy when the dust settles? Let us know what you think in the comments, because this saga is far from over. Stay sharp, stay curious, and until next time, keep your friends close and your mentors off Instagram.